Welcome back, creeps.
Hey, y'all.
Welcome to this week's episode of Weekly Creep. Apologies in advance, but the roofers across the road have not gone home, even though it's 7 o'clock. Instead, they decided to start listening to music very loudly, so maybe they're having a roof party on the roof with men.
They're literally raising the roof.
So yeah, if our noise cancelling doesn't cancel that out, apologies. Couple of shout outs up top. Make sure if you haven't already listened to the episode I did with Brendan and Brandon of Fear Daily, there was an issue with the initial upload, but it's fixed now, so go and check that out. We had a good time just talking, kind of like a shop talk kind of thing, really. But the people who have listened to it said they really enjoyed just hearing kind of that end of things. As well as that, I also did an episode with Kaydra over on Perplexity, a mystery podcast. And she had done all the research. It was actually really nice just kind of showing up, not having to do anything. But she did all this research on the Zozo demon, which it was a story I was familiar with, but I definitely didn't know all the ins and outs of. And it was actually just, it was really fun. She has a great show. Like before, while I was catching up with it, remember I was telling you all about, she did a really good episode on tea cults, like TEA cults. Remember I came home from work and you were like half asleep and I was like, you're never going to guess what. So even like that episode alone was fantastic. But no, I really admire like the research and organization that she has. So that episode should be out today as you're listening to this as well. So go check her out. Perplexity, a mystery podcast. She's also much better at like the social media and the things as well. So she's got bunches of like TikToks and Reels. One thing I wanted to start doing again, because I forgot that we used to do it and people enjoyed it, was media that we've been consuming. So lately, specifically while researching and writing this episode, I've been listening to a lot of Kings of Stone Age. Queens of the Stone Age and Led Zeppelin, but I've been watching a lot of King of Queens for some reason. And that's kind of been it for me. Like, what have you been consuming?
I've been trying to do a lot more crafty things. Like, I'm not making crafts, but I'm trying to make more of an effort to do things with my hands, like coloring. You know, I have a coloring book and some colors. And there was this one night I couldn't sleep. And so I started coloring, and after that, I fell right to sleep. I've been watching a lot of gaming content from Fooster specifically. Hollow is good too, but I think I just prefer Fooster. Like he's just a little more animated, you know?
Is that the English chap?
Yeah.
I don't like.
He doesn't like anyone I watch. We've been watching a lot of Game Grumps. What is it? Not Game Grumps. There are Power Hours.
Yeah, which is the Game Grumps. It's just their other channel where they just do dumb shit.
It's 10-minute. The 10-minute Power Hour is what they do on there. And then aside from that, I've been watching this TV show on Hulu called Tell Me Lies. It is dramatic and it's really hard for my heart when I watch stuff like this because it's anxiety inducing because of like the drama.
Is that what you were talking to
Jordan
your man about? Yeah. We work opposite shifts now, so we actually don't see each other that often.
Yeah.
It's kind of, for that kind of stuff though, it's nice because you get to watch
stuff.
All the stuff that I don't particularly enjoy.
Yeah, it's nice watching something
and I watch sports.
Without Adam coming in and be like, I can't believe you like this guy. But then, and I've still been reading. I've been slowing down reading. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, but I sometimes get in the habit of speed reading, and I'm trying not to do that anymore. Recently read a nonfiction called The Art of Forgery. It was recommended to me by a coworker, and it was really eye-opening because I'm here thinking like very like narrow, skewed view of what this book was going to be about because I went in blind. And it's like art, authenticity of art, like forging of documents, anthropological discoveries, like this, like everything that can be faked, fake wine, like because wine can go for thousands of dollars if you claim it's from, like, for example, Thomas Jefferson owned this wine because he was apparently famous for buying lots of wine, and he would spend like $120,000 of today's money
On a bottle of wine.
frequently on wine.
I'll never understand it, to be honest.
But like those bottles, they go for so much money, but you can fake wines and there's no way to authenticate like the inside, like the actual wine. But people can speculate if the wine bottle is fake by the outside of it, like the engraving and like what it was probably, how the engraving was made, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So it was really, really, really interesting book. I enjoyed it. But yeah, so I have Hulu now. I have other things that are I'm queuing up to watch, like Grotesquerie. Niecy Nash is starring in there on Grotesquerie, and I enjoy her. I enjoy her work. And I'm thinking about watching Candy. Anyway, that's the vibe of the stuff that I'm watching on Hulu. So if you have any recommendations, shoot them my way.
Yeah, and we did go and see that new film. Well, it's a remake of another new film. What's it called? Speak No Evil?
No Evil. Like, it came out like in 2020 or 2022. One of those years.
Yeah, but it was like foreign cinema, so I guess it didn't really take off. But James McAvoy is in the remake of it.
Yeah.
And
it was what we would consider, the original was what I would consider the movie and went straight to DVD.
Yeah, I guess. It's on Shudder, though. If you want to watch the original, like, definitely check it out. But when I say, like, this was definitely a thriller more so than, like, a horror. But it was, like, proper, like, edge of your seat kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, like, you watch a trailer and you know that it's going to be a crazy movie.
Yeah.
But I didn't anticipate the main character being as twisted as he is.
Yeah, it was really cool. Because I actually thought watching the trailer, I was like, oh, well, I guess that's the whole movie. But it wasn't.
And, you know, because because I'm like, let everything be okay. You know, I'm that person. So as I'm watching it, I'm like, dumb thinking like, oh, maybe it won't be bad, you know, like maybe today they'll just have a good time and have dinner and then they get to go to sleep. But it's not. That's not the movie. There would be no.
But that's how good the movie is. It actually gets you to think like that, like,
or hope that nothing weird is gonna happen.
Anyway, have you got a card for us today?
Mm-hmm. All right. So today's card is the King of Swords. Today's message: if you have a difficult problem to solve or a serious decision to make, today is a good day to do that.
Wait, read that again.
If you have a difficult problem to solve or a serious decision to make, today is a good day to do that. Your mind is calm and clear, and you'll be able to separate your feelings from the facts easily. Dishonesty with yourself or others is not advised. The truth may be difficult, but being honest and ethical is vital to your integrity.
Wow.
Wow.
I don't know that one necessarily hits, but I feel like kind of a dud today. I actually think I'm just worn out in that regards, but I do think that my synchronicities are starting back up.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Explain.
I'll get into it further down because it's actually kind of related to this story.
Oh, shit.
Okay, so getting into our story today. The phrase cozy little hamlet seems to be very played out these days, and I was hesitant to use it, but it just so happens to be the perfect description for where we are going today.
What's that?
A cozy little hamlet?
Yeah.
Like a nice, neat little village, like tucked away somewhere.
Oh.
Yeah. The village of Hopfgarten,
Nice.
just outside of Weimar in Germany. It's probably exactly what you would expect of a rural German village, and it honestly seems like even smaller than I thought. Like I love doing like the Google Maps views for like any location just to kind of get a feel for it.
Oh, did you do that for this?
Yeah, I always do, like every story. In 1921, though, a clockmaker's house in this cozy little hamlet became the epicenter of a flurry of poltergeist activity that is possibly one of the most unique cases that I've heard so far. I came across this story while going through... You? Yeah. I came across this story while going through weird college presentations that I have somehow started to collect, like honestly, on my desktop. It's ridiculous. But then I forgot about it until I was just casually thumbing through the Journal of Society the Journal of the Society for Psychical Research from January of 1922. And I saw the name again, and this time, thankfully, it had a lot more detail to it. Also, I don't actually have like a cool physical copy of the journal for the Society for Psychical Research. I just have this like PDF thing. It just sounds a lot cooler when I say it like that. So this could honestly have been a Disney movie, though. Okay. I feel like, right?
Like The Place?
Everything about this story. Ernst Sauerbray was a that's the most American pronunciation I've ever made. Ernst Sauerbray was a clockmaker in Hopfgarten, where he lived with his wife Minna and I believe her daughter Frida. Minna was Ernst's second wife, and I think Frida was Minna's daughter from her first marriage. Ernst also had a son, Otto, from his first marriage, but he didn't live with them. He was 21 and he was also a clockmaker.
Oh, nice.
In October of 1919, Minna unfortunately became bedridden from some, quote, incurable internal complaint of long standing. This is terrifying to me, but yeah, I mean, this was 100 years ago, you know what I mean?
That's like company speak for something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I suppose, like, to keep her included in the family goings on, she was placed, my notes say she was a sofa in the kitchen. But
there's no cure for that. You're a sofa, you're a fucking sofa.
Oh my God, she's got sophitis. But no, so she was put on a couch in the kitchen where she lived, and she did not move except for about a half an hour. Wait, hold on. And she didn't move from this couch except for about a half an hour on New Year's Day, 1920. But half an hour was all she could manage. And this, like, apparently noticeably made her even sicker, like just that half hour. It did also say in the journal that she suffered from her nerves. So maybe it was what they used to call melancholy. We don't know what she was actually suffering from, so this is just speculation on my part, but being bedbound for that long is sure to have some sort of negative effect on your mental health. And just like being sick for that long.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people end up suffering like from depression and stuff like that. I'm a doctor, trust me. On around February 12th, Minna heard what she thought was someone knocking on the door and got Ernst out of bed to check who it was. I'm not sure exactly what time it was, but it was late enough for everyone to be asleep. Ernst could hear the knocking too, but he was quick to realize that it wasn't coming from the door, but seemed to be emanating from the kitchen table itself and the very walls of the kitchen. So classic poltergeist knocking. As soon as Ernst lit a lamp, the knocking ceased. He had searched for what could have been causing this, but upon finding nothing out of the ordinary, he went back to bed only to have the knocking start up again. He said it was very loud this time. Eventually, he went and woke up Frida, who then stayed up all night while this incessant knocking continued. Now, I'm assuming he went back to bed and tried to get some sleep while Frida stayed up to comfort her mom, you know?
The couch.
The couch, yeah. The next day, these sounds started up again around 6 o'clock in the evening. It was already dark because of that time of year. The knocking continued until about 7 the next morning, and this would happen for a total of 17 nights.
Damn.
Yeah. The knocking would get as loud as sounding like fists pounding on the walls and doors, but only in the kitchen where Minna was, not the rest of the house.
Huh.
Now, I don't know how big the house was. I'm assuming it was like only a couple of rooms, but
yeah. Well, I mean, how lucrative was clockmaking?
I don't know, but along those lines, like also one of Ernst's, I guess, main timepieces, like his big clock in the kitchen, stopped, and as a clockmaker, he was like, "Let me just have a quick look at this," and he found no reason why the clock would have stopped.
Oh, okay.
It seemed to be like paranormal type of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Eventually, Frida went into Weimar to get the police involved because they just didn't know who else to turn to. Like,
fair. Yeah.
There was other witnesses at this point too. A tailor who I assume was just a friend of Ernst, but everywhere was just like, and the tailor was there. You know what I mean? I don't think they had like a live-in tailor. I think he was just visiting. But anyway, this guy had witnessed like quite a bit of the activity. At this stage, things had started to move of their own accord as well. Most notably, a chair which had a coffee cup resting on it moved and the cup fell and shattered on the floor.
Ooh.
Now, maybe it's just how I perceived it, but it seemed like the chair was pulled from under the cup.
Oh,
Do you know
like
what I mean? And then it would
style.
like, yeah, or like a cartoon, but maybe it wasn't quite as like fantastical as all that. Like maybe just the chair being moved caused the cup to fall over. Again, Disney movie though. For me, so I'm like picturing it like that, you know.
I know exactly what you mean because like I'm thinking Beauty and the Beast and
like the clockmaker.
Yeah,
and, like you know what I mean.
That makes more sense how the mom can be a sofa.
Oh, I think we need to forget that.
And it would explain why she doesn't move, because she's a sofa.
And sofas don't move.
And sofas don't move.
So anyway, the next night. 8 police officers show up to see if they can get to the bottom of all this carry on. Some of the police officers surround the exterior of the house to make sure that there's no like kids banging on the window or something like that. While other officers, including the commissioner of police, actually went inside to the kitchen and even carried out little experiments of their own. They set up trigger objects in the kitchen around 6 feet from where Minna was laying and observed these things moving of their own accord.
I love and this is the cops doing this.
This is the police, yeah.
I love that.
I don't know if it was like, oh, we'll get to the bottom of your paranormal activity, or we're going to prove this is a hoax.
Oh, that's what it would. But still, like, they could
they
easily
were
be
still
like,
trying, like,
yeah, they could easily be like, y'all are fucking crazy. Bye.
Yeah,
you know,
fucking clockmaker again. The usual knocking noises were also heard. And according to someone who I think was one of the police officers, but was just described as a person, the kitchen table shook so violently that he had to grip the table leg with his knees in order to make writing possible.
Oh, can you imagine? That sounds like a fucking Ace Ventura movie.
Yeah. He was just doing it the whole time himself.
Yeah, when he's in the Jeep.
Yeah. In my opinion, I was like, why not just like use the counter? Like get up from the table. Like,
yeah, like why?
Like, instead of having
fucking
to try
do
and,
this on your hand.
Meanwhile, Minna kept saying stuff like, get the door, someone's knocking, not being very helpful.
Right.
Not gonna lie.
And she's not getting up because she's a sofa.
Yeah, exactly. But here's where the story takes a weird turn. It's called Burying the Lead. And I'm surprisingly good at it. I always do this. Like you're supposed to like give a little bit of up top to like lead people into the story, and I'm like, I'm just going to give all the mundane details at the very beginning and then tell the exciting part because I'm a bad storyteller.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Minna kept complaining that Ernst's son Otto was there, claiming in the dark of night she could see his eyes.
Whoa.
She believed he was telling her to do foul, horrible things,
No
such as
shit.
trying to convince her to sneak next door to steal her neighbor's hens.
What the fuck?
Foul things.
Oh.
But that actually was what he was trying to supposedly try.
What the
Yeah.
kind of fucking...
So why was she blaming Otto? Why had all of this stuff happen all of a sudden?
Was Otto her son?
Her stepson,
Oh.
who was grown and didn't live there anymore. Remember,
Okay.
he's a clockmaker
He's a
now in a different town.
Okay.
Well, Otto had actually been to visit just 2 days before all this paranormal hijinks kicked off, and it is said that he actually hypnotized his stepmother while he was there. Yeah. So, just like today, human interest in the macabre and unknown seems to wax and wane. I think right now we're at the height of one of these trends, but historically, interest in these like occult like subjects comes after some catastrophic event like war, or like a long period of famine or whatever, a long pandemic maybe.
Yeah.
Otto Sauerbrey had apparently been giving public demonstrations of, quote, hypnotism, spiritism, and such things.
No shit.
Yeah, since the summer of 1919, which is actually when World War I officially ended. So in my head, like from my school days, World War I was 1914 to 1918. But the official ending was actually June 28th, 1919, with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. So you could say that Otto Sauerbrey mesmerized her. Right? Why would I say that?
Yeah, why?
The term mesmerized is a word that we still use today, but it actually comes from one particular chap by the name of Franz Anton Mesmer. This guy was born way back in 1734. So this is a little bit off track, but in a nutshell, Mesmer came up with a practice which was known at the time as animal magnetism, which was seen as bizarre even in the 18th century. But he grew like kind of a fan base. He had believers and he had skeptics and was pretty much run out of different towns throughout most of his life, as most folks thought that he was a charlatan. Now, his work was ultimately dismissed by the medical community, especially after one of the kings of France had him exiled from Paris based on an investigation into his practice. But basically, he had like gone and situated himself in like a really swanky part of Paris. And one of the King Louis, I don't know which, basically got wind of him because all of these like rich Parisians was going to hang out with Anton Mesmer or Franz Mesmer to try out like his cool new basically like hot yoga. You know what I mean? But King Louis, whichever, was like, something doesn't feel right about this, and he sent like 4 dudes in to, I guess, go undercover and like try it out, and they were like, yeah, we think it's baloney. So he was run out of Paris, but other people saw like the potential, right? They felt like he was onto something, but his reasoning wasn't quite right. He believed that it was to do with a fluid in the body that he himself was controlling. And like initially, animal magnetism, like he would give his patients or subjects like this drink that was heavy with iron, and then he would literally use magnets. And he thought that he was like controlling it around him. But it did work. Like a lot of his stuff seemed to have positive results. Anyway, throughout the 19th century, other people put more of a scientific spin on things and eventually rebranded, and suddenly mesmerism became hypnotism, based off the Greek word for sleep.
Okay.
So, Otto, it is said, hypnotized his ailing stepmother for reasons unknown. Maybe it was a simple parlor trick, or maybe he was genuinely trying to help her condition. Like, within just a few years of it being like rebranded as hypnotism, they were using hypnotism in like field surgeries during war times and stuff.
Instead of anesthesia.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Which obviously like anesthesia wasn't what it is now back then either, but it's still like a common enough thing. I went down the whole hypnotism rabbit hole. I think I might have been inducted like honestly into some weird cult. I'm on their YouTube channel now. But like, I mean, today it's a trope. It's like, oh, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to stop smoking cigarettes. I'll go get hypnotized or whatever. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But it was only 2 nights later that all of this paranormal activity kicked off. Okay. After police became involved and they heard this end of the story, which I think like pretty much straight away, Frida, the daughter of Minna, was like, it was him. He messed up because she was like saying that he was there at night and stuff like that. So the police arranged to have a Dr. Cal, who was a nerve specialist, or Dr. Kalle. He was brought into the house to essentially unhypnotize Minna. And it was quite literally like, he's going to come in and use the power of suggestion to convince her that this isn't happening, or that the hypnosis...
So he's going to put on another layer of hypnotism.
Basically, to try and like remove whatever...
Cancel out the other
whatever spell Otto had her under. But apparently once he was done, Minna said, I am now free.
Oh.
And that was that. That was the end of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it really is like Disney stuff here.
And the entire episode lasted just 17 days. But from what I can gather, the general consensus of the time was that Otto had either mischievously hypnotized his stepmother, intent on terrorizing her final days, or he had failed to release her from whatever spell he had put her under unintentionally.
Oh.
They actually took him to court.
What?
Yeah. But from what I could find, he never actually got charged with anything. But like one of the voices in the journal for SPR was the magistrate of like Weimar, I think.
Okay.
Who was like the judge who oversaw the case. And like they had different people's perspectives, like the commissioner of police and like stuff like that. So that's why it was so well documented. But yeah, I don't think they ever managed to actually charge Otto, which like rightfully so, because even if he was being a prick, it's like you were using magic against
yeah, because it could have been like if you took all the magic, I guess, out of it, if we took all the woo-woo out, essentially it's just Otto saying, Minna, steal the hens. And then Minna's like, Otto's been telling me to steal hens. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, he's trying to corrupt me.
And then some other person comes in and is like, Minna, don't steal the hens. And she's like, I'm good. You know, like...
yeah, literally, that's it. So, unfortunately, Minna passed away around a month after the activity ceased. But what I found really interesting, and this might be me going off on one, so just hold on.
Okay.
The activity would only start when the night came. And this is when Minna would start to become noticeably agitated too. Now, like I said earlier, we don't know what Minna was suffering with, just that she was bedbound with some like long-standing illness.
Right.
It sounds to me like she might have Sofa-bound. It sounds to me, though, like she might have had episodes of some sort of delirium, or maybe she was suffering with dementia or Alzheimer's, as well as whatever physical ailment she had. Now, this is not just me pretending to be a doctor. Like, there actually is a whole bunch of different health conditions that can lead to dementia or, like, emphasize the symptoms.
Yeah.
And bring it on sooner than the person maybe would have got it if they hadn't gotten sick with this other thing as well. And people who suffer from dementia or Alzheimer's are known to experience what is referred to as sundowning.
What's that?
So, I'm glad you asked. Sundowning isn't exactly like, oh, the sun has set, now my symptoms are multiplied. But if a patient is tired, hungry, maybe overstimulated, they could experience hallucinations or become considerably more agitated or distressed. So it's called sundowning because I think it was initially noticed like, well, it's nighttime, this person is tired, and now they're getting more agitated. But that's when they become more aggressive if they're in like a later stage of dementia as well. Not specifically at night, but when they're worn out and when they're agitated, tired, or
they get worse.
If it's been like a busy day, like they had lots of visitors or something, you know
like
what I mean?
Their symptoms amplify.
Are exacerbated, yeah.
Oh.
So this can continue all night long. Like it's also like another very common symptom of dementia, like to hear people knocking upstairs and stuff like that, you know? Yeah, that's what my great granny used to tell my granny when she was looking after her. She was like, I wish they'd stop all that work next door. They're at it all hours of the night. But unfortunately, it's just one of those cases. Like, so this can continue all night long. I'm not saying this is what caused the paranormal activity, but I'm wondering, did Otto's little mesmerism trick unlock some lesser known part of the brain that would have otherwise been completely dormant? And then with Minna's condition, it was just like the perfect recipe for a psychokinetic episode. You know what I mean?
Okay. Oh, well, you know, when we were talking with a lawyer, he had a similar theory. He was like, people that have like severe mental illnesses, could they be like people with like dementia or something like that, could they be conduits?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're saying. It's kind of like my whole sleep paralysis argument. It's like people who have sleep paralysis often have paranormal experiences. And then because they've had sleep paralysis, skeptics say, well, you just had sleep paralysis. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Whereas people who are less skeptical will say, well, maybe one led to the other. What I mean? I don't think this was a haunting as much as it was Minna's brain causing all of this. Like, it actually solidifies my belief that poltergeists are potentially only created by humans and whatever bizarre brain activity we bring to the table, whether that's hormonal or otherwise, I don't know. I think this has long been the belief of most people in the Society for Psychical Research, but I think it can come off as quite like gatekeepy and condescending. Like, I do also still believe in a good old-fashioned like ghost hunting, like, don't get me wrong. But as I was writing this yesterday, I was writing before I headed out to work, and I was thinking like, it's a little bit too short. You know what I mean? Like, there's not really that much depth to the story, but it's such a good story that I'd hate to not do it at the same time. You know what I mean? I was thinking like, oh, well, maybe I'll just squirrel it away for a Patreon sometime in the future. But I couldn't, like, I wanted another case that related to it.
Okay.
So I was like, it kind of further like bolster my point. But I couldn't think of another example of a case to compare it to. Then literally, as I was walking to my car, I opened TikTok and I see Emma from Real Life Ghost Stories has posted about her most recent episode. And I don't even watch TikToks. I open it, I go like, who's followed me, who's liked me, who has posted, cool. But like, so I won't actually watch the videos. I'll just like my friends' videos and then go about my daily business, whatever. But like, I locked my phone and the video kept playing, like the sound kept playing. It was really weird. But I was like, wait a minute. This is the other case for this story.
Okay.
So it was really weird, but that's where I was like talking. I think that's where my synchronicities are coming back to play. Because the other night I was about to message someone on Instagram and I was like, I'll just wait. It was to do with Houston Strange. So I was like, I'll just wait until it comes out and then I'll message them. And the TV beside me literally said their name 3 times.
Yeah.
Like one after another.
You know, yeah, I noticed that. Aside from that time you almost lost your mind, your synchronicities they happen when you're doing research.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I'm like my mind is already wandering on it or something, like so I'm more prone to notice certain things. But anyway, Emma recommended an article to read, and as I was reading it, I recognized the story like complete. I was like, hold on, no, I've definitely read this before. And so I started looking through my Kindle, and I even had it bookmarked in my Kindle version of Colin Wilson's Poltergeist, which we used like maybe 2 years ago. I can't even remember which case we used it for, but like it's a fantastic book. Anyway, I haven't listened to Emma's episode or anything, but I guarantee there will be similarities, even though the article and the book had like varying differences, like the subject's name and age, for example, which is very annoying. Anyway, so in Romania in February of 1925, just a few years after the Hopfgarten incident, a young girl by the name of Eleonore Zugun, or Zugun, or Eleonore Zugun. There's a few different variants. So Eleonore was on her way to her granny's house with her cousins when she saw some money on the ground and grabbed it. Her cousins told her to leave the money alone because it was the devil's money. Now, I guess it could have been viewed as like a lure of temptation by the devil himself. But either way, Eleonore said, quote, "Fuck y'all, I'm going to keep it and buy a bunch of sweets and you can't have any."
End quote.
End quote. So obviously that's not an actual quote, but that's exactly what she did. And rightly so, in my opinion. She grabbed that money, she went to the sweet shop and she ate all of her sweets in front of her cousins without giving them any.
She was like, devil sweet.
Yeah, tastes devilishly good. But as well, her cousins were probably like, well, we can't eat those sweets because they're the devil's.
Yeah.
So fuck them. But anyway, she's described like as a peasant girl in all these various different sources from this remote village in Romania. So I'm sure it's not often she gets to treat herself like this. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm all for her taking the money and buying the sweets. So on they go, her and her jealous ass cousins, to see their granny, who is apparently a 105-year-old witch in the village of Buhai. Granny finds out about the money and the sweets, probably because Eleanor's cousin is a little rat.
Snitches get stitches.
And then Granny goes off on poor little Eleanor, saying that the money had indeed been the devil's money, and in eating the sweets, she had, quote, swallowed the devil and would be possessed, potentially for all of time.
Why would you say that to a child?
She's 105 and she's looking after a bunch of children. Do you know what I mean? Like, she probably is at her wit's end, witch or not.
You're a witch, but you can't conjure up some fucking sweets for your kids that she's taking devil money.
I don't know. This was the 1920s in Romania. I don't think they had happiness then. The thing is, though, the very next day, stones rained down on the granny's house, even breaking windows, and small objects around Eleanor start levitating and all. Eleanor was quickly sent back to Talpa, which is where she was from, but the phenomenon persisted. A jug filled with water began levitating several feet in the air, a trunk rocked up and down, and a bowl of porridge smacked the visitor in the head strong enough to apparently leave a wound.
Sick.
Yeah. This carries on for 3 days after she gets back home, and then her family, not knowing where else to turn, send her to a monastery or a convent. It varied in the different sources. This isn't the first time Romanian monasteries have come up on Weekly Creep, but thankfully, this time it doesn't have such a tragic ending. I'm referencing the Irina Cornici story that we covered like a long time ago as well, just in case you're interested. It is a fascinating story. After an unknown length of time at the monastery, poor Eleanor is then moved to a mental asylum.
Damn.
Yeah. Now, I can only imagine how awful this must have been.
How old is she?
So between 11 and 13,
Fucking
right?
hell.
I was going to round it up and say 12, but one source material said 11, one said 13. I think, honestly, at this point, I think she is 11. So, and this went on for weeks, like at least like for weeks. On April 18th, 1925, a local newspaper ran a story about her, which thankfully somehow found its way to a German spiritualist group who assigned one Fritz Grunewald to investigate. So here's like more weird synchronicities. Like we're back in Germany now with these ghost nerds. Now, Fritz actually managed to get Eleonore out of the asylum in which she had been placed and back to the monastery, which I guess was better, but he didn't actually meet her until May 9th. I don't know, he's probably taking a train and it probably took 15 fucking years because it was back in the day. But at this point, it's been around 3 months of just unimaginable chaos for her. And the phenomenon is still going on around her. Now, Fritzy spent the next few days with her at the monastery and observed and documented what was going on. He released a short statement saying that he believed this was a genuine case of paranormal activity. In an unforeseen turn of events, though, Fritz was not able to publish a full report of his findings because he had died of a heart attack. Yeah. So, I don't know how long afterwards, but like I guess some of his mates got all of his paperwork together and did publish like a report in honor of him, like based off of his work.
Talk about a plot twist.
I know. And get ready for another plot twist. The story takes another wild turn here. Countess Zoe Wasilko von Sarecki heard about Eleonore and decided to pay her a visit. She then just kind of fostered her and was like, come and live with me now in Vienna. Which is actually another weird synchronicity because Franz Mesmer lived in Vienna for a good part of his
How
like.
interesting.
Yeah, that's why I was like, as I was reading, I was like, hold on a minute, like this is literally the story.
She was like, come, devil girl, you'll live with me.
Yeah, so
I'll show you off to my friends.
so the Countess is actually like a rock star and a godsend at this point. It turns out she had actually studied parapsychology and had spent the previous 6 years investigating supposed mediums at seances.
Wow.
So this was like
a match
she's in
made
her element.
heaven.
Yeah, and
yeah.
the Countess's family, I don't know, something to do with
Are they cool too?
Hungary. I don't think so. They were like monarchy, like she's a countess.
Oh.
But basically the land Talpa, the place where Eleonore is from, was at one point under the Countess's family's rule.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
guess this is how she picked up on it. I don't really know. By now, it's September 1925. And again, this actually sounds like another Disney story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's a complete like Cinderella moment. Like, although she was under constant observation and sometimes scrutiny, Eleonore finds a genuine friend in Zoe and she's taken on a 5-month trip over to England. She also gets to see like parts of Germany that she never would have seen. She's living in Austria.
Fucking
right now.
lit.
Yeah. And like also like Vienna is where like Mozart is from. You know what I mean? It's a very like culture heavy place and stuff like that.
Sick, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so when she's over in England, she meets our old friend Harry Price. The activity is pretty much a constant too. Like a lot of apports, which I actually left out of here, but like very much like textbook almost apports. Like someone will be writing or like just paying attention somewhere else. All of a sudden there'll be a flash and something will fall out of the ceiling.
Whoa.
You know, a lot of this stuff.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah. And I think there was definitely incidents of Eleanor like trying to fake some of the stuff, but like most cases, this is because she can't actually control the phenomena that's happening and she doesn't want to disappoint her like researchers and now her new friend Zoe. Zoe tries all sorts of experiments too, and one such experiment was automatic writing, which had interesting results, which, quote, indicated that its level of intelligence was extremely low.
Oh.
And Eleanor refers to this entity as Dracu, which is Romanian for devil or demon.
That's fucking
as
cool.
in Dracula.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now they're blaming it as an entity. It was also quite violent towards Eleanor, and at times, like often slapping her and throwing stuff at her. And by March 1926, it had started scratching and biting, even leaving enough saliva that they were able to get the substance tested and confirmed that it was not, in fact, Eleanor's saliva, but like a different organic material.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Price and Zoe witnessed these scratches and bite marks form before their very eyes. And she also said like sometimes it would feel like she was getting like pricked with a pin.
This kind of reminds me of that book, My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. If you haven't read it, you should read it.
I think it's a TV show now.
Is it?
Or a movie or something, yeah.
Oh.
One source kind of just said that she had sensitive skin, and there's like photographic evidence of the scratches. And I will say that I actually worked with a girl before whose skin would literally do the same thing. Like if anything brushed against her, like if she carried a box or something, and like she always wore like low cut tops, and it was her chest that would kind of break out in these like welts and scratches and stuff. And they kind of look like cat scratches. You know what I mean? If people are allergic to cats or whatever. But that was just one factor that still can't explain the whole thing away, which is what some skeptics were like, this is all it is.
Yeah, like what's up with the ghost saliva? It doesn't explain that.
Yeah. Or the shit falling out of the ceiling. Like.
Oh, yeah, like out of nowhere.
Yeah. In February of 1920. Oh, also, actually, just a nice little note. It turns out she like made friends with all of like the staff at the Vienna house where Countess Zoe lived.
Oh, nice.
Like the kitchen staff and stuff. Like, because one of the items that apported was somebody had gifted Eleonore a necklace, and then she in turn gifted that to like the cook or something. And then it just like vanished and showed up in a different room of the house, all this kind of stuff. But it showed like that, like she was literally living her best life in this like mansion or whatever.
Yeah, she had friends.
Yeah.
That's nice.
In February of 1927.
Must be nice.
In February of 1927, 2 years after it had all started, the phenomenon just almost completely stopped when Eleanor had her first period.
Oh.
Yeah. So the next month she returned.
Her moon cycle.
Her moon cycle, yeah. Her moon's blood. And then, the next month she returned to Romania, where she lived the rest of her life in relative happiness. The Countess Zoe had helped her get a start in becoming a hairdresser, or maybe just encouraged her and said, like, this is something that, you know, you don't have to go to school for. It'd be a good trade. So that's what she pursued as a career.
Look at that.
And she was quite successful in her little village as the local hairdresser.
That is great.
Yeah, and although she claimed that activity did still happen every now and then, that was pretty much the end of it. Like, as soon as she got her period, it was like, boom, cut off. Colin Wilson raised a good point in his book, though. The activity continued, even multiplied when Eleanor went to live with the Countess, which must have seemed like a dream come true, like we were just saying. So maybe it wasn't wholly based on just the power of suggestion, which is the point that I was making earlier with Hopfgarten. But Wilson goes on to say that if the granny really was a practitioner of magic, maybe the fear and trauma brought on by the scolding that she gave Eleanor was enough to cause some trickster entity to latch on and just kind of run with it. You know what I mean? So here's where like the science, quote unquote, and the paranormal really like come head to head, I feel like. And I'm like, my last note here is now I'm flip-flopping back to the other side and going, you know what? Yeah, ghost this whole time. But like, maybe that is it. Like, maybe the perfect storm isn't a physical location. It isn't, you know, just the devil coin on the ground. It was, you know, everything. And then if that had happened in a different location, maybe nothing would have happened other than maybe Eleanor didn't like her granny anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because it happened in a place where other worldly things were, or maybe, you know, the veil was thinner, whatever we want to call it. Maybe there's fairy activity there. And now all of a sudden, this anger and emotion that's like beaming from this young girl is like that pillar of light that people often describe how it is to be a medium or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, something latches on. And it's like some really low intelligent entity that was just referred to as Dracu.
Big fuck you to grandma.
Yeah. Sorry about you, love. But yeah, so that's my 2 stories this week.
Oh,
and
very
actually,
nice.
like the last episode was also 2 stories that were like linked like that as well.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show it, like, this wasn't necessarily planned. It just worked out that way. And I was delighted for it. Maybe at another stage, I'll do like a slightly deeper dive on Eleanor's story. But like, from the 2 accounts that I read, that's basically it. Like, it was a pretty cut and dry, perfect poltergeist story. It's like, well, no, the activity just started randomly and ended kind of randomly.
Yeah.
Maybe it is a hormonal thing, or maybe it's just a perfect blend of all of the stuff.
Yeah, maybe. We'll never know. We can only speculate.
Maybe one day we'll know.
Hopefully.
That's what the SPR, the Society for Psychical Research, are trying to uncover. You know what I mean?
I think Adam's petering out.
I'm tired now. We are full of shrimp.
We are full of shrimp.
I'm going to have a quick shower and a quick nap, and then I'm going to edit this.
Cool.
And yeah, don't forget, Houston Strange comes out in 15 days maybe. Thursday, October 17th, or whatever Thursday is around that, 2 weeks before Halloween.
Whoop whoop. It's fucking October, y'all.
And if any of you guys are in Austin, I will be at the Night Owl event. I can't think of the name of it. It's like Spirit Hour or something like that. I'll be there on October 12th. So reach out to me. Let me know if you're interested. There is tickets to like panels and stuff like that available. I'll just be there hanging out. I'm not like a part of it or anything. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good time. And bye.
Bye.
Cool. That was an interesting little story, wasn't it?
Yeah.
See, I like the older ones, especially when it comes to like Harry Price and all of the old investigators. Oh my God, here's Fritz Gronnevold. That belch was pure fucking Mambo's shrimp. Holy crap. We are both full of shrimp.
We had Mambo's.
Pull this over. Yeah.
I looked scared when you did that. I was like, if you've ever had Mambo's, let us know.
I'm going to be leaning in like this probably because I'm constantly...
Because he doesn't know about space.
Yeah.
Personal space. Never heard of it. Just kidding. If you have a Mambo's near you, order the Mambo's special shrimp. It's on the appetizer section. It's really good. Highly recommend. We're not sponsored by Mambo's. We just really like seafood.